Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Basketball Bulletin. We've got a lot to talk about today. Dillon Brooks, instant regret on his part. The Miami Heat are in complete free fall. Stephen A. Smith, leaked audio that does not look great. Plus, Giannis blatantly violating NBA rules. Ton of stuff for us to get into today. Make sure you do subscribe right here to the channel and turn on those notifications. Joining me is Donnie Freeman. Donnie, I'll tell you what, I know from a Lakers fan perspective, Dillon Brooks is not a favorite, and that's true of a lot of fan bases around the NBA. But Miami Heat fans got, well, maybe not the last laugh in the game because the Rockets won, but Dillon Brooks was trying to talk trash to some Heat fans and got a little bit of instant regret, a little instant karma that got to him here.
Yeah, Dillon's had a few, funny situations in his career so far, but this one probably takes the cake.
So here's Dillon Brooks, right? And the Rockets won the game at the end of the night, and that's important. But he scores, and then he's talking. Oh, he's falling. Down he goes.
Is Shaqtin' still a thing? Because that would absolutely be on there.
It absolutely should. Because he scored on Bam Adebayo, and then down goes Brooks. Oh no,
that's a fast break going the other way. Push it.
Right? Right. Well, if it was Marcus Smart, we could have said he was flopping, but he clearly just tripped. But
are we sure he didn't flop either way?
Yeah, I guess that's true. Now, the Rockets did win the game, and they've been playing great right now. The Rockets, they are currently on a 9-game win streak, which is the longest win streak in the NBA. Meanwhile, the Miami Heat are going the complete other direction. They have lost 10 in a row, the longest losing streak in the NBA. Are the Miami Heat cursed? I don't know if you watched this game last night, Donnie, but it felt like every Heat shot in the fourth quarter just went in and out, just like horrible luck. I don't know if this is the curse of Jimmy Butler or what's going on in Miami.
Well, maybe Miami just wants to get a high lottery pick this year. Who knows? Maybe they're intentionally just putting a little extra spin on the ball where it, rolls out. But no, yeah, I don't know what's been going on with them. They have had a hell of a season in a way you wouldn't have expected. You still expected them to have been pretty competitive with the trade that they pulled off. I thought, bringing in Wiggins and that should have kept them afloat a little bit, but I didn't expect 10 straight losses. But they may just be cursed. And it's weird because they finally got, heroes playing the best ball of his career, named an all-star, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But they've not had a good year.
Yeah, right now, Miami would have, if the draft were to happen right now, they would have the 8th best lottery odds. Their pick is protected 1 through 14, and it sure looks like it is, unless they somehow survive the play-in, which I don't expect them to. They have dropped all the way to the 10 seed. But I think there's a lot of people that are taking away from this. Ooh, see, Jimmy was right. Miami shouldn't have traded away Jimmy Butler. I've also seen people talking about, well, does this mean Heat culture is dead? What does this mean for Miami?
Well, I think long-term they'll be all right. I mean, they've still got Spo there. That's the one constant is they've had a lot of guys in and out, over the last decade plus, and the constant's been Spo. So I think they'll be all right. But in terms of like the Jimmy piece, obviously taking a player of his caliber away from the team isn't going to be beneficial to the team. They're obviously going to get a little bit worse. I thought maybe, like I was saying, they would have stayed afloat. But the way that Miami handled things earlier in the year was they moved away from so much Jimmy Butler and were putting the ball in the hands of basically everyone else. Jimmy wasn't a big fan of that. He said so himself prior to the trade. And so maybe they were already gearing up in hindsight to have a future without Jimmy Butler. I'm not really sure. But yeah, this year, regardless of who's right, who's wrong, just not been a great year. And they wouldn't have been this low if they had a Jimmy Butler that was locked in. They, especially from the jump, because he had a couple games where he also mailed it in, just literally did not give any effort when he came back and all that stuff, and got called out for that by Riley, if I remember correctly. I would have imagined they would have been really good this year if they kept him.
All right. I want to explain exactly where the Heat went wrong. A huge mistake that they made that no one should ever make. I'm going to get to that right after this from Prize Picks. Prize Picks are a great sponsor right now. They do a phenomenal job, daily fantasy sports. You guys can check them out. Use the link in the description down below. Use our promo code Bulletin. Get a guaranteed $50 on your first $5 played. We're going to make a few picks. And look, Donnie, I see him right there. There's Jimmy Butler. There he is. No Steph Curry right now for the Warriors after that scary fall the other day. We already reported on that recently, but Jimmy Butler, 14 rebounds and assists without Steph Curry. I think he hits this.
Yeah, he should have a pretty high usage game and hit that pretty clearly.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with that, and then let's do one more. Let's go look at we can't go Pods because he's on the same team. We have to pick somebody from a different team. What about Dyson Daniels? The 10 rebounds and assists playing against the Warriors, so the other side of the ball there in that matchup.
Go under. I
feel
like we don't go under enough. Go under.
You're right. And I think that's actually like a mental side to playing these kinds of games. Yeah. Most people we think in the positive and that things will happen, when obviously a decent amount of time, at least half the time, they don't happen. So we'll go less on Dyson Daniels on 10 rebounds and assists. If we are right on that, $10 entry would win us $30. Go check it out over on Prize Picks. Use the link in the description down below. All right, Donnie. So here's where Miami really went wrong, is this past summer when they decided, hey, we are not going to pay Jimmy Butler. And I think that's a reasonable decision. We don't want to be the team to pay Jimmy Butler on his next contract. Totally reasonable. Jimmy Butler, 35-ish years old? What is he, 35, 36, right in there? You don't want to be the team to pay Jimmy Butler on his next contract. You don't want to pay him the kind of money he wants. You don't want to pay him the years he wants. Okay. That's a reasonable choice. Then trade him immediately before, because Jimmy's not going to react well to that. You're going to have problems. You need to move him before it becomes an issue. Which, look, when we talk about the Luka trade, the Mavs, they said they were getting ahead of a problem. Now, the Mavs made a mistake, right, in terms of the value they got back, in terms of making the move in general. Very different situation from Jimmy Butler. But the thought process was, we don't want to pay Luka a super max deal. And so that's going to be a problem for us this summer. So we're trading him now. Again, the Luka trade was not the right thing for the Mavs to do, but the thought process needed to be applied last summer in Miami. They should have said, hey, Jimmy's going to have a problem with this. We know what happens when Jimmy Butler's not happy. We've seen it happen at previous stops. We need to get ahead of this and move him before we have a big problem. The Miami Heat did not do that. Not enough forward thinking right now. Happy birthday, Pat Riley, but not enough forward thinking right now in Miami. Pat just turned 80 years old, by the way.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think that they should have traded him as soon as they could have, as opposed to maybe expecting this to get better. Really, I don't really know what they expected. Like, they just tried to write it out. If they were hoping Jimmy would eventually say, you know what, I don't want this much. Let's meet in the middle. We'll do that. And maybe that's what they were hoping it would do, as somebody that has had history there. But no, Jimmy wanted all his money, and for better or worse, they made the wrong decision there.
So, Donnie, let's jump to this. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right on Jimmy Butler. Let me jump to this. Is NBA officiating somehow getting worse? It feels like over the last month, it has gotten worse than we've seen in the past. And look at this. This is Giannis Antetokounmpo, and yes, he's playing our Lakers and everything. I don't want to be biased here, but watch this and watch the reaction from the Lakers bench. He picks the ball up with his hand and then starts dribbling again. And watch the Lakers bench here. Watch this. The whole bench at the same time, up in arms over this. But this is the kind of stuff we're seeing on a night-to-night basis. I've talked that about a lot. Offensive players are getting away with now just stiff arming. The off-arm issues are becoming a nightly thing. We call it Tatuming. Do the off-arm thing that Jason Tatum uses all the time. I'm just saying it's like Tatum is the main guy who does it. Well, there's other guys who do it. And look, let's be fair. Luka does it from time to time, does the little push off. Same thing with a lot of guys in the league now. But this, a blatant carry right in front of officials. And that's what gets me is we've got stuff that's happening right in front of refs. That's blatant. That's obvious. That's not being called. There's just inconsistencies in the way the rules are being officiated. Donnie, to me, it's been a glaring issue over the last month plus, and I just hope this gets cleaned up come playoff time, because this is ugly.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, there was nothing more egregious than you talk about right in front of the refs. Not
Yeah.
even this, but that clip of Luka getting trucked a few games
Oh, that was
ago.
bad.
It was, you see the angle, there's two refs watching it, like against what, the Nets? How
Yeah,
does
it was
that
against
even
the Nets.
happen? He two-hand shoved him. That's an easy ejection right there. He came out of nowhere and just threw him to the ground. Like they did, and they didn't call anything. This is ridiculous though, because I don't understand on the Giannis piece what they thought was happening here. Okay, he lost the ball, he's allowed to recover it, but that doesn't mean he can put his entire hand under the ball for 5 seconds seemingly and get away with it. Which is why the bench reacted the way that they did. And yeah, carrying is one of those weird things that like every time they call it, it's weird because they never ever call it. It's just a part of the game at this point. But when they're that egregious, I mean, my God, I don't know if you ever saw it, that one clip. I don't know if it was LeBron or somebody else, but they were walking up past half court a few years ago, and they were just holding the ball for like 3 seconds under their hand.
Oh yeah, walking with the ball. That was for a little while ago, but yes, I did see that. And
yeah, they don't call that
the Luka
stuff,
one.
man. This one is nasty. There's two refs looking at this,
looking right at it, and watch. Just shoved in the back for no reason. Like Luka wasn't even thinking about rebounding right there. Like, and he should have been, but he wasn't even thinking about it. That just gets shoved in the back, 2 hands. And this is the kind of stuff that we're missing right now. And here's the problem for the NBA, Donnie, is the NBA, obviously, sports betting is a bigger and bigger thing. Whenever this kind of stuff is happening, the Giannis palming the ball, the shove, all kinds of stuff that's happening around the league. Whenever this kind of stuff is happening, because sports in general, not just the NBA, sports in general, has become more of a haven for sports betting, which, for better or worse, there's arguments on both sides. But immediately you get people going to the conspiracy theory explanation for why this kind of stuff is happening. Oh, they're playing the odds. Oh, they're trying to keep the score at a certain level. That's what the officials are doing. More and more people believing the kind of conspiracy theory stuff that officials are trying to manipulate the game. And that's not a good thing for the NBA, especially given the past in the NBA with all the Tim Donahue stuff.
I was going to say
this is not good when obvious and egregious things are going uncalled, because it leads to uncomfortable questions.
Yeah. And out in this play, it's not as egregious as I remember. It's still really bad, but maybe not an ejection, but for sure a tech.
Sure. A tech for sure.
But on that piece, like, yeah, I think we're already like predisposed to think of that because there's just so much like open, like even I mean, we have a promo, we did it earlier. There's just so much of that now where we're predisposed to think about like betting and all this stuff in relation to the league, and it doesn't really help when there's a history of it with Tim and all that stuff to where like you can literally point to something. So yeah, this is just a bad look. I question whether or not they're getting worse or if it's even possible to get worse. But what I will say is with these guys is that I think the biggest issue that the refs have is the lack of consistency, because they have to, there's multiple layers to it. On a night-to-night basis, they're calling different things fouls. Like one game, it's everything that touches is a foul, or it's everything that touches for one team is a foul. There's no consistency from team to team. But on a night-to-night basis, there is no consistency, because I think what is a foul as it pertains to the refs can be subjective. Like, does this person individually think that warranted a foul for X player in that circumstance? Another ref may think so. This ref may not, which is why they've got the crew, which is why sometimes they confer with one another. But then while the game is ongoing, when you've established what is a foul, if you're letting them play, whatever, you've also got to make sure that you're calling that on both sides. So there's different like layers to this where officiating is just, it's all over the mess on a night-to-night basis. And I don't know if we can clear this. This is like human error. Like, I think I don't want to move away from humans and
you want to go to AI
like
refs?
But that may be the only way it gets any better, because I don't know what the fix is here. Because the refs get graded. They get all these different things. They just don't publicize that. And maybe that's the next step. But
that's it. So many people want, now, when they say they want accountability for referees, that's not really what they're saying. They want public humiliation for referees that miss calls. But my God, look, we just saw a player get hurt. Look at Steph Curry. Watch this. This is Steph Curry getting hurt the other night against the Toronto Raptors. There was no call on this play, Donnie.
That's crazy.
There's no call here. There's no verticality there. There's no way you could look at that and say this is verticality.
He's jumping at him.
He's jumping at him.
That's crazy.
And Curry gets hurt. Now he's out multiple games. At the very least, there should have been a foul called. And this was play on. And Curry's wiped out in midair.
Who is that, Barnes?
It's Castleton that's there. And then who is it that came over?
Because the other player literally throws his knees into Steph's like midsection.
Oh, yeah. Yes. It was, what's his name? Mogbo?
Oh, okay. Maybe. I don't watch enough of Toronto. I'm sorry, Luca. I'm sorry.
So yeah, so this is the kind of stuff that's happening, right?
Yeah.
In the NBA right now, and the kind of stuff that again, obviously, if they're calling this stuff, it's not going to prevent Curry from being fouled. I think he's going to get fouled on that play regardless. Yeah. But to have that play happen and not even get a whistle, that's what I've seen a lot of Warriors fans upset about, and rightfully so. Like, how is that not even called a foul?
Yeah. And my thing about it too is that there's also no consistency with the quote unquote superstar whistle, because Steph has a terrible whistle. Like he has a terrible whistle. There's a lot of guys that have a terrible whistle, like LeBron or like even Jokic has a terrible whistle, regardless.
Not SGA.
The free throw numbers tell you that some of these guys have terrible whistles, despite one game outliers like that. I have to say that for Jokic, because he had that one game where he shot like 17 free throws against us or whatever it was. It was something stupid.
Yeah.
But like there are also guys like Giannis or SGA or even guys like Harden. I don't know if it's just because they're good at manipulating, but also at the same time, they have a crazy whistle. So there's just no consistency across the board, period. It's just nasty, man.
Exactly. No consistency within a game, no consistency game to game. Players have to adjust each game and figure out what is a foul and what is not a foul tonight versus what was a foul or was not a foul the night before. They, from one end to another can be different. It's a lot of kind of obvious stuff is getting missed or called incorrectly right now, and it's not a good look for the NBA.
Agreed. Like, I'm sure you remember, but I just want to bring it up. Back when Harden was in his prime, and you had to defend him with hands behind your back.
There's tons of stuff of that. Yeah.
How can they literally look themselves in the mirror and think the game is officiated properly when players have to do something like that?
And I think players were doing that to really shine a light on it and try to embarrass the league. It wasn't just about James Harden. It was about like, hey, look, we have to literally handcuff ourselves, put our hands behind our backs, right, to defend this guy, because otherwise he's going to grab my arm and then throw his arms under it, and you're going to give him a call. Like, they're just absolutely absurd stuff. And that's the kind of stuff where you get the rest of the world looking at the NBA and they're like, what is this? Now, the flip side of that would be you tell the rest of the world, hey, look at soccer and then let's talk, right? but that kind of stuff with the NBA, it just can't happen. You've got to be the model for consistency. This needs to be the top of the top. This needs to be the very best. And it feels like with the officiating, we are just not getting it. Now, that said, it's a very difficult job. By no means would I try to say otherwise. It's a very difficult job to officiate professional basketball. These guys are so strong, so fast, and the human eye, it has its failings, right? There's only so much that we can see. There's mistakes will be made, and I think people accept that. But the obvious stuff people want to see get right, and we're seeing more obvious stuff get missed.
Yeah, I think the worst one, and this is the last thing I'll say, is that when they have all the tools at their disposal and still get it wrong. We've
when they
seen
review
them
it and get it wrong?
literally go to the freaking review and still get it wrong.
Yeah.
How do you do that? And then sometimes they choose to employ reliable, aka marginal contact. That doesn't make any sense at all to me.
That is just the sweep under the rug. Let's just call it marginal contact, right?
Oh,
let's do that.
Few words irk me more than marginal contact.
Right? Marginal contact is the infinity stone of NBA refereeing. It can just snap your fingers, solve any problem. Just boom, marginal contact. There it is. That's what we'll call this, marginal contact. And then that takes care of our whole problem. It's the MacGuffin. But Donnie, we do need to talk about this clip that's going on. I don't even want to play the clip. Stephen A. Smith, there's reportedly it's from an ESPN producer, or it is a recording of an ESPN producer that says some Not very flattering stuff about Stephen A. Smith. He talks about how the ESPN staff was rolling their eyes at having to cover the Brawny Stephen A. Smith stuff about, the term grifter got used to describe him. But it's also very clear, like this recording in itself that's going on, the reason why we're not even playing it, I'm a little bit uncomfortable with it because I don't know for sure. We don't even know if it's the actual person, the ESPN producer that's saying these things. Like it has to be confirmed, but it doesn't seem like he's aware that he's being recorded. It sounds like he's in a restaurant or something. I don't know. Maybe he's on a date. Whatever it is, it doesn't seem like he's aware that he's being recorded in that moment, and that feels a little gross to me.
Yeah, that's very possible that he's not really aware of what he's saying, and it's just why he's saying these things, just kind of having a casual conversation. So yeah, that's a little bit sketchy to me. But yeah, the things he was saying about Stephen A. being a grifter, all that stuff, it's things that we know, but it's just interesting.
We know he's a grifter.
We know he's a grifter. we know he is because that's
it's stuff
the job,
everybody
right?
says.
That's the job, right? Like right. You gotta come out and you gotta say something inflammatory, and you've got to generate a reaction so you could get trending online and so you could talk about it. He said, "Oh man, I really wish I didn't have to talk about the Brawny thing, but you know what? Because it went viral, I have no choice." And ever since he's been on a media tour, he went on like 5 different shows.
On every show
he was on. I think he was on like Fox News or something.
We should have him on our show here.
He was on something like, I don't know if it was Fox or CNN, what it is, man, but he's been everywhere. Like you can miss me with that. So he is an absolute grifter. He knows what he's doing, and that was the best thing that could have happened to him, especially because it's somebody so high profile, so polarizing as LeBron. And he that's what he does. That's the job, and he gets paid handsomely to do it. And so yeah, some people obviously it's going to rub them the wrong way.
And he does very well with it. I think that the difference is because when I was listening to the audio, I was like, and by the way, guys, if you guys want to hear it, it's going around out there, you can find it. But when I was listening to the audio, all the stuff that was being said, I'm like, I was expecting like, oh my God, some kind of crazy detail is going to be revealed here, something we didn't know, or something, something is happening here. And no, instead it was all, I'm like, this has kind of been the conversation around Stephen A. Smith. Like he's playing a role with ESPN. He is getting into arguments. He is the loud voice there that is getting everybody fired up. He's getting into these debates. And the bottom line, he's getting engagement. He's getting people to react one way or another. He's getting people to react. Either I strongly agree with him, I strongly disagree with them. There's very few people that are going to be in the middle on the stuff that Stephen A. Smith says, and that's the job. And he's very, very good at it, and he gets paid very, very well for it.
Yep.
What the difference was, it's actually somebody reportedly from ESPN that's saying these things, that even within ESPN, they kind of recognize what it really is. But at the same time, I was thinking, well, of course they recognize what is happening here. And again, he's really good at what he does in terms of playing that role. But then he also mentioned him getting into politics and how he thinks that's a little weird because he doesn't feel like Stephen A. Smith really knows what he's talking about with politics. Sometimes he doesn't know what he's talking about with sports. Like that happens too. There's stuff that he says where you're like, well, that was not correct. But we'll see what kind of a reaction it comes from this. Like, I hope the guy saying this stuff doesn't wind up like losing his job or whatever at ESPN because this audio is out there. Obviously it's an uncomfortable situation now for them to deal with.
Yeah. I just wonder, how things are going to look for Stephen A. With his job switch as he's trying to pivot more into being more of a political figure. So we'll see what happens. But for now, I mean, yeah, he's doing his job at ESPN. He's one of the best guys in the world at doing what he does, which is generating discussion.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, everybody give us your thoughts in the comment section down below. Don't forget to subscribe right here to the channel. Go check out our latest video about Nuggets coach Michael Malone, waving a big red flag about his team this season. Go give that a look right now.